Good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here. I'm with Aja Holiday. Our guest today is Patricia Corpum Myers, TC. This is smart. No, it's not. This is Partner
Finally
Profiles,
happened.
MaidCentral Partner Profiles. Hey, I've had a long day today. I've been going through a major weather event. Biblical.
Oh, you are in that area. I just talked to I can't think of his name right now. Sorry. Oops. Terrible.
Yeah.
Internet website guy. You know him too. He's in your area, isn't he?
Yeah, Paul.
Oh, Paul.
Oh, I always want to call him Dan. I have no idea why.
He's a little bit like Dan Smith, maybe. And
yeah.
They say it's like going to be biblical proportion type rain. I mean, it's rained a lot. It's not raining at the moment though, but there's like the other half of it hasn't come through yet. And they say like by Saturday, we might have 30 inches of rain.
That's what he said, that you guys are going to get a lot of rain.
Yeah. And things flood.
That's a lot. That's a lot of rain.
And do you guys have basements, Tom?
No.
Oh, well, that's good.
No, the water level's too high there, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
We had that happen. I mean, we didn't have a tropical storm. We just had a lot of rain at the beginning of July and lots of flooding in basements.
Yeah, I'm glad that there's not a whole lot of basements around you guys. That's good at least. But that many inches of rain is so much. I don't think people like really consider that because it's not like snow, right? Where like 30 inches of snow, like, yeah, that's a lot, but it's still, nobody's going to be like, you're usually prepared-ish for that. But 30 inches of rain is like everything's flooded.
Yeah.
And we're like on the ocean. There's a lot of rivers and tidal creeks, and there's like a 6-foot swing between high and low tide under normal conditions. And if you catch a high tide with all this extra rain coming in, a lot of things flood. So it could be interesting.
So is the only way to escape is a boat, or you can still escape? What's the escape route here?
Well, you got to be careful of flash floods. What happens is people get out on the road and like there's water going across the road, and I've seen it happen, and it happens quick. The next thing you know, cars are floating. That's where you need to be careful. It's usually when you're in your car and you're out and about.
Yeah,
I mean, some homes flood, but I mean they're not like having to climb up on the roof or anything type flooding. It's not going to quite be that bad. So TC, you are in Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas, or
Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay. Aja, you spent some time out there, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I was in the Kansas City, Kansas side. She actually cleaned my house when I moved. They did my move out clean. My elite did my move out clean when I moved out. Yep. So I was able to give you guys a Google review with like legit experience.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. I forgot all about that.
I remember I chose you guys because I could book online.
Yes. Online booking. You know me. I don't do business with people I can't book online. I can't book online.
We need to talk about that a little bit. But before we get started, why don't you just share a little bit about yourself and how you wound up in the house cleaning business?
So we really started. So I was in corporate America for many years, and then I did transportation, and then from there I worked for the city of Kansas City.
Transportation, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
logistics.
15 years. Yeah, logistics. 15 years for Yellow Freight.
Okay, well, I used to work with J.C. Penney. We had a distribution center in Lenexa. That's somewhere out your way, isn't it?
That's where I worked.
That's where I lived.
Okay.
Well, I think mine was like Overland Park. I think it's not considered Lenexa because it's right off of 435. But yeah, at the big building over there. I worked there for like, I don't know, 12 years. And then, but 15 years overall in transportation.
Cool.
Yeah.
Some overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are in the logistics business. I've said that for a long time. We just happen to be delivering cleaning, but to build a successful house cleaning business, it's really a lot more about logistics than it is about cleaning.
I would agree.
So I'm sorry, you were in logistics for 15 years, and then what happened?
So my husband is a ex-major league player, and he stayed home with the girls for years after he retired. And when the girls went to school,
Who do you
he
play
needed
ball
a
with?
job. The Royals.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
hometown. What
Yeah.
position?
Center field. Yeah, outfield.
And
Yeah.
was he like on the World Series team?
No.
No.
No. He was 90. Oh my gosh, you're gonna ask me 96, 97. But he was drafted right out of high school. He's actually from Houston.
Okay.
Yeah. But he needed a job. And I don't know if you know ex-major leaguers, they don't like to work for people. And he loves to clean. So my sister was like, start a cleaning business. You can do that. You love cleaning. And he does actually love cleaning.
Okay.
And so that's what we did. And then I still worked. I was like, I don't want to be in the cleaning business. I help you, but I don't want to be in the cleaning business. So yeah. So then he used to make fun and just say that I was his secretary.
Oh, okay.
So,
Now look where you guys are at. He's your secretary now.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how we got started. And it was really, we have a baseball academy too. So he does a lot of traveling with like just his teams or whatever.
Okay.
So for a while we've been in business for 16 years, but we didn't really grow the business. It was just like people we knew or friends, people from baseball world or whatever. It wasn't until about like 5 years ago we started trying to grow. And I would say the most growth or the most educated we've gotten has been since we especially about our numbers, right? Like 3 years ago, little less than I haven't even been with you guys 3 years. Less than 3 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
Our time with MaidCentral is almost identical.
Yeah, it is. I remember that. So we didn't even know numbers. Like we were like, yeah, let's try to leave a legacy to our kids or something. So we're like, let's make it happen. But we didn't know our numbers. We didn't know any numbers.
Wow.
I mean, maybe we knew revenue.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know what's coming into the bank at least, but not necessarily what's on the schedule and what's actually supposed to be coming in.
So, and when you talk about logistics, we probably, and Aja probably knows this more, but we probably had a Lee Summit job today and a Overland Park job on the same day. I mean, we still have that sometimes, but not on purpose, right? So yeah, it was bad.
So not knowing your numbers, what was that like? I mean, did you just, was there some, keeping your fingers crossed, just kind of hoping that, things are going to work?
Well, I think for the most part, we had a cushion, right? Like we made really good money baseball wise, right? So I never really stressed, but I can imagine it still felt the right word. It felt like we were not smart or not educated. Like I could see, I was in the cleaning world. I could see in the Facebook groups. I could see in I don't know if you remember the old, oh my gosh, I'm not going to remember, janitorial store. Like people would be in that little, what was that chat room, the chat rooms or whatever they're called.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. I remember that.
Yeah.
It was before Facebook.
Right. Before Facebook. So I knew we were missing something. I knew that we didn't, we're not a real business. We're a business, but we don't know stuff, right? We don't know our numbers. And I knew we were lacking something.
Back then, nobody knew their numbers because you really didn't have a way to get your numbers.
No.
I mean, conceptually, we knew that there should be numbers, but because I've been doing this for 30 years and we were scheduling on magnet boards and a lot of things on paper and, some spreadsheets and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was, gee, I hope this works out okay and there's enough money for payroll this week.
Yeah. I was doing Google Calendar in the beginning.
Yeah.
So that
at least you had Google Calendar, that's a step up from some people what they had to start with.
Yeah. So when
did you start? I don't know if we actually said that. What year did you start your business?
In 16 years ago. I think it's 16.
Okay, 16. Okay, sorry.
What is that? Eight-ish? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's been a long time. I mean, I definitely feel like it's obviously stressful, right? You don't know your numbers. There's so many things that go into that when you don't know your numbers. And it's hard
There's
to
a lot of
grow or know what you're doing. And for someone who was in the business for a long time and then was like, oh, let's make this a real business, it was like, eeks, where do we start? What do we do? So, hi, Dawn. So yeah, it was stressful for sure.
So you guys kind of started out. Did you guys immediately start getting? You said you weren't really looking at hiring or growing so much early on. When did you guys really hire an employee outside of the family?
So it probably wasn't till like a year. We tried a couple times a year or two before we went to so we started growing it like about 5 years ago. So about 5 years ago, we tried to probably 4 years ago, we started trying to hire other people. But even then it was difficult, right? Because I knew I had a software that I could use that I could see like they could clock in, right? But I had no idea like the whole how much time are they driving and how much time are they cleaning? Like what's that look like and what's that supposed to? And who knew PPR? Like I had no clue what that was, or probably even if it was working, right? Like I had nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking about payroll percent to revenue a lot recently as just like how many people even know what that is before they start getting into some kind of educational circle. And even then, I don't know if it's all, education circles in our industry. I know it really well because of working with Liz for so long. That's a very major KPI for Liz. And then it's a core KPI with MaidCentral as well. And I think that's a core KPI for Liz now in her circles. But even before that, it's like, I know it's coming through those educational circles, but some of them don't even talk about that. And it's your biggest cost, right? Your payroll is your biggest cost. So when you're not
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah.
Roll the clock back 20 years. Most house cleaning businesses had a P&L that didn't even break out variable from fixed costs. There was no cost to get sold. It was just revenue, expense, profit, because their CPA was putting all that together and all they wanted to do was pay taxes. And I remember living this. I remember studying that and trying to figure out, well, how can we become more profitable? And the easiest thing to do is start looking at, well, where are we getting our cleaning supplies, this and that. And, there's not enough money there to make a whole lot of difference. And figuring out that payroll is variable. And I mean, this is stuff that other industries do all the time, but you just didn't see it in house cleaning. And then we started coaching people through foundations like, I don't know, a dozen years ago. And we started coaching people. And it was then when we really started figuring out, you know what, this payroll percent of revenue is a variable thing. And, if it's 45%, then 45 cents out of every dollar is going to go to that. And you get to keep the other 55 to cover your other expenses. And if you do it right, you got some profit left over. That was a game changer.
Yeah. I mean, I could remember like even though you said it's a small amount, like even realizing, man, I should not buy my cleaning supplies from Walmart, or, like I should look to see where the cheaper cost is, right? Because there are sometimes some things I can get from Walmart that are cheaper than if I go to a distribution place. But just realizing that I can save money in all those places and monitor things is, I mean, it's huge.
And, like understanding the materiality of those decisions of like, yeah, I'm going to every once in a while, instead of taking 60% of your time and searching for the cheapest supplies, it's like, okay, I'm going to take 1% of my time of the entire year and research my supplies each year and just make sure that the place that I'm looking at is still the good place. And then taking advantage of any deals that actually come up throughout the year if you can. You know, if you can buy something in bulk as something comes up. But it's like, that's one of those things that we see often where it's the conversation has changed. You're not just talking about where can I find the cheapest vacuums, but where can I find the best vacuums? You know, what vacuums actually work well, not just because they're cheap, but, you know, what ones work well and actually get a decent job done. I think that there's like so many more variables now that people are considering when they're having these conversations. And it's, I mean, numbers come into it, obviously, but there's also, you know, it's not the numbers of, you know, the cheapest vacuum, right? Versus the vacuum that works well and maybe is a little bit more expensive. That shows up in your numbers in a very different way. Yeah, it's more expensive on your expense line, but your technicians might be faster because it does better work and they don't have to
show up in your quality scores for sure.
What has the biggest impact on your payroll to revenue?
Yeah. So like your payroll to revenue goes down because of that. So it's just kind of like you're able to start considering these things just a little bit differently than just the straight expense cost of it on the front line, the residuals, if you will, of what is the residual effect of this purchase and how is it going to impact our numbers and our payroll percent to revenue? Is it going to make them faster? Is it going to make them more productive? Are they going to enjoy their jobs more because of this purchase? Like,
absolutely.
Sure. Take that expense, do it. Like, that's going to be worth it.
Yeah, they love a good vacuum, that's for sure.
They love a good bag too, like a caddy. Like if you have a good caddy to carry supplies, it is crazy how much that makes people, like technicians, excited about things. And you see that in your numbers.
Yeah.
So when you started MaidCentral 2.5 years ago, is that about right?
It was in January.
When you had your first Charleston, I think just a few months later, you had your first in-person meeting.
Wow. Okay. How many of those have we had so far, Aja?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You're kidding me. You're counting every one of them.
7, 8, 9.
It's double digits,
10.
right?
We are doing number 11 in
September. We're doing number 11 in September.
So 11 events ago.
11 events ago.
Don't ask me how I was feeling 11 events ago, though.
I was very overwhelmed, if I remember correctly, and understandably so. You were still working on going live, I want to say, around that time. Like you hadn't gone even fully live yet, and yet you were at the live event. And
we were live, but I think we were also psycho. I don't know if we knew what was happening.
Don't call me crazy. Don't call me psycho. No,
yeah, but we were not. And actually, Laura and Heather were like, "You're not leaving. You've already spent the money. You're already here. We're done." I was like, "Okay." Yeah,
you gotta stay.
It's a lot of information to all of a sudden learn, like all the things you need, and you're like, "Holy crap, what's happening here?"
You should come again, though. I don't think you've come to another one since. It's a completely different event now.
I would agree. Yeah, I will eventually.
You should try another one in the nearish future in like 2025. Definitely come to another one of those. But so like I know that, and we've changed this so much, so I don't know exactly which one that you went to, because especially those first 3 or 4 that we did, we changed like a whole lot each time that we did them, just because we were really taking the feedback really strongly and making adjustments with each one that we did. We're still changing them every time, just a little less drastically as we were in the early days, I would say. But one of the big things that we talked about was originally we were calculating a lot of those KPIs. Had you ever really calculated KPIs before?
Yes.
Or, yeah.
So one of the things that I do for Liz is that I manage her Q&A on Tuesday, every other Tuesday. So unfortunately, not everybody's with MaidCentral. So I had to figure out what those calculations were, which, by the way, even when people are not with MaidCentral, I always send them the help link that you guys have, because it has all the math, it has all the information. I'm like, listen, I'm sorry you're not with MaidCentral, but this is the document you need if you're going to like do it. Because like if you're going to Because a lot of times if you have to manually calculate those things, they don't know what the numbers are. What numbers are we, multiplying or dividing, or what numbers are we pulling, right? So I sent them that document. I referenced
the core KPI document. That's hilarious with all that's so funny. You know,
no matter who they're with, I send it to them.
We should use that the MaidCentral side a little bit more. That's so funny. Did you write that down, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, we should. And it's almost an awkward discussion though, because it's like, well, we don't have these numbers. We don't have any idea what they are. And it's like, well, we could have some pretty interesting discussions, and we could do some pretty neat things if we had them. And we used to with MCA Live, we used to spend a day pretty much showing people how to do the math.
That was tough.
We gave that up. Here are the numbers. Let's put them to work.
Yeah. Because I think that's the hard part too, is just like, when you don't have them in front of you, you don't have an easy way to get them. There's just like so many layers to it of like, I have to find them. I have to know the calculation. I have to know that these are actually the numbers that I'm supposed to be using in that calculation. Okay, now I have a number. Now what? I bring this up, I think, every partner profile. It's the Finding Nemo fish at the end of the movie in their baggies floating in the ocean, where they're just sitting there like, we did all the work. We got out of the tank. Now what? They're stuck in their baggies in the ocean and they don't know what to do next. And that's what I feel like people... That.
So like each one of those calculations takes at least, if you go look at that document, each one takes at least 3 steps minimum.
Yep.
Okay.
Minimum.
So now you have, what is it? 12, 10. I've lost count, but
there's 12 to 15, 12 core. And then there's like 3 supplemental.
Okay. So now you have to memorize those steps, 3 to 5 steps for each core KPI. And then each time you have to do them. So for like in Liz's group, like we do them weekly, right? Yeah. And so it's like the file on the back cabinet. You just don't even want to open up Pandora's box because you're like, oh my gosh, I got to remember how to do this and go back through and do it all over again.
And then you get the numbers and it's like, well, now what do I do with it?
Yeah.
What does this impact? What changes this number? What makes this number do good things and what makes this number do bad things? And how do I make it look better if it's not where I want it to be? And also, how do I know if it's where I want it to be? That's just another level of it of, how do I compare this? Is this good? Is this bad? Yeah. That's another layer of it too. I mean, there's just so many pieces that I don't think everybody totally grasps they're missing out on without having access to so many of those numbers all the time.
And at the heart of it is predictable outcomes. Large companies, publicly traded companies, every quarter, they will tell you what they're going to do the next quarter. And they're pretty good at doing it because they've got all the numbers. And when you're able to predict outcomes, you don't have to lose sleep at night worrying about, can I make payroll on Friday? Because what's going to happen.
I don't know about
the numbers will help you do that.
Not quite sure about the not losing sleep, but I agree.
Well, I mean, if you're not, if the numbers aren't good, at least you don't have to wonder. You won't make payroll.
True.
Yes.
And you're able to know exactly how much you need to supplement to make it, versus finding out on payroll day that, hey, I actually didn't have enough for payroll. Now I got to come up with
an irresistible offer to make quick cash fast.
You work a little bit harder to get a few more jobs on the board because that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
It gives you the opportunity to make decisions quickly and effectively. And act proactively instead of reactively. I think that's kind of the biggest difference is that instead of, realizing that you aren't able to make payroll on Friday, that's the worst place to be versus Tuesday, running payroll numbers because you have everything ready to go and being able to submit it on Tuesday and being like, all right, I've got 3.5 days to fill that account. And I know that I can fill it in 3.5 days, and making sure that we're ready to go. And it's like, that's a tough conversation to be in, or a place to be in. But most of the businesses that we're working with have been there at some point, where they're losing sleep about those things. And part of that struggle is just not knowing. So, but yeah, no, this is all really good stuff. So speaking about some of your numbers, I know one of the big things that you've been working on the last 2 years, just because you and I have been working on it together, is your quoting tool, and online quoting in particularly. Were you doing online quoting before MaidCentral?
I was.
Because you were using Responsibid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then how long have you been online quoting, and what's kind of your feelings around online quoting?
Well, I love online quoting, that, because I don't want to do business with anyone that I can't do online something, booking, whatever it is.
And neither does Aja.
And neither do I. It's why we get along. It's why we're soul sisters.
Yeah. If I cannot text you or go to your website, I'm out. So I love it. I think it's good. I mean, I honestly don't know the numbers right away of like how many we get, but we get enough that it's worth it to me. And then we just have a
second quartile, I think, or like right on the cusp of second quartile for number of quotes that you receive. And considering your business size in comparison to just all businesses that are on the MaidCentral platform, that's really good. You're definitely on the higher quote end, just in relationship to business size. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we definitely get quite a few. And so even just booking, I don't feel like I've ever had anyone, I don't think I've ever had anyone say, oh my gosh, that was so difficult. I don't know what I'm doing here or anything. Most times, like, it's how to, like, hey, I'm trying to log in, and they've used a different email, and then they think they're at the wrong place for the portal. I mean, those kind of things. But as far as anyone ever saying it was difficult to book, never had any complaints, anybody call in angry that they didn't understand, none of that. And we did booking before for Responsibid. Obviously, I love Responsibid, but it had its limitations. I mean, that's a fact that, and I don't know what it looks like nowadays, but at that time, it was limited to certain things that we could and couldn't do. And so
once the biggest limitation was not being connected to your availability.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yes. That was one of them. Absolutely. But once we were like, okay, we're here, we're not leaving MaidCentral. It's got all this stuff, like over time, I'm going to find numbers and I'm going to be able to understand. I don't think that once it was all set up, like I think we were done with Responsibid within 2 months of being over in MaidCentral. We were done.
I think I asked you for your login maybe 4 months in, so that I could like go just peek around and see and try to understand what was happening in Responsibid. Just because
it was just fear. It was fear.
I was just curious, and you were like, "It's gone," and I was like, "I'm so proud of you." I remember just like being so proud that you had literally cut that cord like fully and completely, and you were just like,
we're just manually keying them in, and I was like, why are we doing this? Done, I'm out. So yeah.
No, I love that.
And it was hard because and I don't even remember, Aja, you might remember this more than I do, but Responsibid runs a different way than MaidCentral does. So it's quoting different. It's not it's apples to oranges. So that was the hard part, was like getting over the mindset of like, oh my, this is changing. And I know you probably don't remember this, but it was also that we were raising our prices. We were like, okay, we're raising our prices. So it was like a lot of
sticker shocking yourself, like every single quote.
Right. Yeah. There are a lot of fine products out there that I want to make sure that, I love the folks over there and they make a good product.
Yes.
So it's,
no, absolutely. No.
So let's make,
Yeah, no, it's great. I think the biggest limitation is just like, or the biggest benefit of having something built into MaidCentral is just that you get to see, it talks with your availability, and you do get all of that cohesive one place as your source of truth all together. So I want to say that, yeah, your pricing was probably the biggest I mean, you were in the quoting tool calls for months.
I still go.
You still go. I know. It's just like a weekly occurrence. I had to take a week out because we had another meeting, and I was like, oh, and Trisha's probably going to be there, and Dawn might be there, and Angie's going to be there. But those are my weekly people. They just come to as many calls as they can.
Because you never know like how you can broaden how you're quoting that makes better sense for prospects, right? Like it just makes better sense in understanding. I think recently there was something and I was like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. So
yeah, I think you and I both have in those calls both have had aha moments of like, oh, this is a new way that we can do this. This is another way that we can do this. Like there's just so many different applications that we've come up with in the last couple of years along that quoting tool. And you've been a big part of my little light bulb moments for sure. Yeah. We are, let's see, we're about just over halfway in. Okay. So, around the quoting stuff, Tom, did you have anything else on the quoting side?
You asked me another question. Tom, did you have some? Sorry, go ahead.
No. Before we wrap up here, I mean, you mentioned something. Let's touch on it for a minute. That you are a coach in cleaning, core profit builders, and you work with Liz. Could you share a little bit about what that's about and what y'all do over there?
So what we do over there, well, what I do specifically is I do the Q&A, and like I help anybody who starts up with her. So I help them get up to just catch up and like figuring out what her whole system, the GET, does, how to put your numbers in. A lot of times, like you said, there are a lot of other good programs that other people use. So I have to like go in there, learn, like kind of help them out, figuring out where to get their numbers from, and then figuring out like where those numbers go. And are they true numbers, right? Because some people don't truly understand like what is, PPR, like how do you do that? And
your numbers are only as good as how you're using things.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, I wouldn't say cleanup, but figuring out, like trying to sort out where they get their numbers from, whatever program or software they're using. And then
if they're using MaidCentral, it's a little bit easier, right?
Yes, a lot easier. But we always just like whatever they're using, I just help them try to figure out where those numbers are. And then we do like Monday check-ins. So basically you're setting goals. I feel like it's a mix of like a mastermind accountability group. You're getting coaching one-on-one. And then it's also like the masterminding within the business owners that are attending in that, your circle. And so people are holding you accountable, asking you questions. You're also getting good ideas. You're collaborating, right? So like one of the biggest things right now, well, it's not one of the biggest things, but like, prospects, buyers are being more picky right now, right? Like they're being more choosy about where they're spending their money. They're not just going out and picking the first cleaning business, right? So, we talk about leads, how to get them, how to keep them, just get a lot of training from Liz, get a lot of grilling from Liz.
She keeps you accountable.
Yes, she does. So, and then, we're doing the coaches corner, like all of us, some of us that are coaching, we're sharing information, training, that kind of thing.
Very cool. Very cool.
And you mentioned that you've also done, you're working on some things in Go High level as well. I do want to talk more about your numbers in a little bit before we totally finish up. But while we're talking about some of your other endeavors, you are working on getting your certification, right?
I am. I go for my last test. I think it's today Tuesday. Today is Tuesday. You had me thinking it was Wednesday. I was like, wait a minute. What's today?
I'm so sorry about that.
No, you're fine. So Thursday I'm gonna go, fingers crossed, and take I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna do it live, but it's a proctored test, and you have to like show your ID, and it's a final test. So I'll be certified and go high level.
Wow.
That's awesome.
What's that process like?
So there's about 40, I would say it is self-paced like anything else. It's a course, self-paced, right? So I would say like 40 to 60 hours of learning, and then quizzes. So it's like videos, and then quizzes, and then you're taking short quizzes, and then there's like 100, I think it's 100 multiple choice test. And then once you pass that, you have to do the proctor test.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of learning for sure. And it's a massive tool. So, I mean, there's a lot of pieces to it for sure.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that for ourselves firsthand here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good though. I'm really enjoying them. Their whole support program or process is really nice. It's really cool.
Yeah,
I think a lot from them.
Yeah, I think so too.
Have we shared? I mean, I guess we can that MaidCentral. We had another CRM that we used to manage the whole marketing and sales process for MaidCentral, and we recently moved over to go high level. We went live end of July, right?
Yeah, just last week.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, so it's been really interesting. We're still learning some things, and just like any software change, we are not exempt from software change challenges as a software ourselves, but it's been great. I mean, we're really excited about it. It's maybe a little simpler than the old platform that we used before, but in the right ways. Like, it means that we're going to be able to be a little bit more focused on what we're nope, it wasn't Keep, Dawn. Here, I'll show that really quick. But it wasn't Keep. It was actually just internally at MaidCentral, how we managed you guys, essentially, how we made sure that we kept you guys all straight, how we sent out newsletters, things like that, how we kept in contact with you all. We had a separate platform that we were using, and we switched over to Go High Level internally last week. The Keep integration is still going to stick around. The Zapier integration is still going to stick around so that you can pop over into Go High Level. But, you know, now that we're using it, there might be some other things coming down the pipeline. Don't know what they might look like yet, but you never know. We might, as we're using things, we might see some things that are like, oh, well, maybe we can connect with this. Maybe we can do this. You know, that's how things work around here.
I'm not going to be mad at you.
Well, good. I didn't think so. So we are getting to the last 20 minutes or so. So I do want to talk about some of your numbers, because some of these are really, really good. And I know when we were reaching out kind of last minute, you were worried about those. And I was like, I'm looking at them right here. Like, they are good. I don't know what you're talking about. You're probably holding yourself to higher standards than I would. And I think also part of it is that a lot of people focus on revenue. And your revenue can be a little bit volatile, right? Like, we can have some hard months. And right now it's an election year. And, you know, if you've really been working on growing for the last 5 years, you might not have seen this kind of lull, which just kind of happens. Everybody gets a little bit more picky, choosy, thinking a little bit harder. Even if they don't realize it, they just do. It's just kind of one of those cyclical things in a large election year. We see a little lull in the last half of the year. I don't know why.
Is that really a thing?
Yeah.
I think
this is now my fourth one, or my third one. This is going to be my third one. And I've seen this now. This is the third time.
I've been around for a while, and I've never heard that theory. I'm not saying it doesn't have merit, but is that like something that has been discussed? I mean, have you had this discussion with other people?
I feel like, I mean, ad expenditures go up. So you would think, I mean, they say that they're more expensive.
I think it's more just like the fear cycle kind of sets in just a little bit. And it's just a short period. It's usually, we're in that period right now. I would say from August to election day,
But you don't want to be
really just
scared
like,
and have a dirty house too.
yeah. I remember this so clearly, working in a cleaning service, running through 2 election seasons and being like, why are we suddenly just so slow this summer, or this it was like the summer before and then the school season before, which were used typically some of the highest times for us. We would then compare it to an election year and it was significantly lower. Just those election years. And I'm like, I don't know if it's a real thing. I don't know if there's enough data around it. All I know is from my experience and watching it for, using all the things for one company at least, and then also watching it. I'm going to watch it this year just because I'm curious. I have more numbers to look at now, more companies to compare it to. But I do think that might have a thing. I do think that people are, well, there's a couple of things going with it. One, we had massive price increases over the last couple of years, everybody adjusting to inflation. Yes. And so everybody's just a little bit more price conscious, I would say, than maybe a year ago. And you mentioned that too. People are just a little bit more picky choosy about where they're going with, what they go with. So you mentioned, a lot of people are looking at just that revenue number. So I want to talk about the numbers that you're doing well with, which are the big one. I mean, I don't know. Do we want to start? Do you want to start from the best one first, or do we want to end with the best one?
You do whatever you want.
Whatever. Right, I'm going to start with the best one because I think it's so great. And if this takes the whole 15 minutes for us to talk about what you've been doing, I'm okay with that. But that's your customer attrition. And this is an incredible improvement. This is probably the best improvement I've seen. So I pulled the data for these things for 12 months. So I look at the past year. Mm-hmm. So when compared to exactly 12 months ago, your attrition was 17% for the same 4-week period 12 months ago, which that's rough. You were probably feeling that real hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're in the first quartile with 3.6%. So not only like a massive decrease, but you're in the first quartile and well below industry average. So your customers are feeling happier, even if you're occasionally sending them from Lee's Summit to, Lenexa, they're still happy.
Yeah.
Have you been focusing on this recently?
So we did. It's been one of my tough, like one of them that I focused on in the first and second quarter. So it's a couple of things. It's like realizing you see this number and you're like, you got a backdoor problem, right? Like so everybody coming in, we're losing, the same amount, right? So it's tough to figure out what that problem is. And it's much harder. Well, I think it's much harder probably to do it when you work with family, right? Because we're going 2 different ways, like I don't clean, they clean, and we're not on the same page, and then I'm hiring and then everybody's not on the same page, right? So like we're not training the right way. We're not all doing the same things. And you feel that attrition from the clients because you can't manage their expectation, right? Like I can say I'm selling this and Laura and I can sell this product in-house and we can talk on the phone, but then they receive that product from the people on the front lines and it's not the same thing. And then they're calling and oftentimes you don't get a call, right? Like oftentimes it's just, hey, we're out, right? Nice, Dear John email. Like we're saving money, So a couple of things helped with that. Obviously, knowing our number, knowing that we even had a problem, right, helps that your attrition on a consistent basis. Then the other thing that we worked really hard on was just becoming, I'm not going to say I'm a better leader because I started like, instead of just dictating what was happening and creating this training program and saying, hey, go do this. We sat down at the table and we did it together. That was the first thing that kind of happened.
I love that so much.
And it was like really like realizing, because I can run everything at home And so I tend to just like be like, oh, do, go delegate, and not in a nice way sometimes, because, you know, it's family.
Because they're family.
So yeah, so you can always give your best answer to your family. And so realizing that everybody brings something to the table, and then just giving them like the valuing, you know, like what they're saying, like, let's do it this way, and trying to be open to that and not saying, no, we're doing it my way. That was a big thing. And I will tell you, I am the most proud right now of our training program, because I put it all in Go High Level, and it's all online. It's an online portal, and it feels powerful. It feels like, oh my gosh, we're going to be able to train people now, and really,
I might need to pick your brain on that.
yeah, and really be able to keep.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
So I mean, it sounds like a lot of things are going into this. You know, you're talking about setting expectations with customers. You're talking about training your cleaning professionals,
getting buy-in from your team.
Yeah. What do you know, was it any one thing, or just a combination of all of these things? I mean, if we've got people watching this who are running house cleaning businesses and they want to be able to do what you did, what would you tell them?
I would say that knowing your numbers is powerful, right? But if you do nothing with those numbers, it means nothing. Like, you've wasted your time. So I think knowing the numbers is one thing. It's powerful. You get to do what you want. You get to choose how you're going to do it. But I think being on the same page with your team, like for me, it's my family, but being on the same page, like knowing what you're doing, and, you know, having that connection and having that buy-in is probably the biggest thing that has started to help us move as one. And I think that's been the most powerful, even on the hard days, right? Like, at least we're still talking about moving in the same direction. Like, here's a rough day. Here's what happened recently. You know, like, our culture is bad. Like, it's not bad. It's non-existent, because we're remote, right? So it's non-existent. And so a lot of people, we lost a lot of employees. And so that was hard to create revenue, because, you know, you have nobody. But it also helped us realize, like, okay, we can do this together. Like, you know, being on the same team, now we know, like, oh, this is what we need to do to make a better culture. So, like, we're now working as a team.
It's actually really interesting, because I see some of your other numbers, just like I was looking at these really in particular last minute, obviously. So I have them very fresh in my brain. I don't know if I did give it to you. So your absentee rate is super low. And so I was expecting your technician turnover to also be super low, but it was really high. And that actually, what you just said, makes that all make sense.
Oh, yeah.
That you have had a rough year, but the last 4 months or 4 weeks in particular, but probably a little longer than that, have settled into a really good cadence of building this really good remote culture, having your whole team bought into this idea of having the same expectations across all levels of the service, you know, from the sales point to the receiving the service point, making sure everybody's on the same page. That's huge. Your training materials being online, so everybody can be really consistent as well. I think it's very interesting that I know that you might not be seeing the results on the like pure revenue side right now, but you're going to start seeing the growth results of these things soon, I think so, because too. just seeing what these numbers look like for the last 4 weeks are great.
You know, the formula, if you take your monthly attrition rate for customers and divide that into one, that gives you the number of months that the average recurring customer is going to stay with you. When it was 17%, that comes out to be about 6 months on average. A recurring customer will stay with you. At your new rate of 3.6, it comes out to be closer to 28 months. So the average time that a recurring customer stays with you went from 6 to 28.
It's 4 times longer.
Yeah, from a revenue standpoint, the revenue went from the lifetime value of revenue from a customer went from 2,400 to over 11,000. So in time, those recurring customers are going to stack so much higher.
Yeah.
Wow.
I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
I believe in this for you, like, so much. Like,
Hmm.
it's funny that you can, and this is why, like, this is why being able to see these KPIs easy and regularly is so important, because even people who are on MaidCentral that are able to see these numbers will still hyper focus on the revenue number sometimes and get down on it, right? Because they're like, man, this is just not the place that I want it to be. And I know we had this conversation today, and that's why this is so funny, because I know other people are going to be feeling this way of like, gosh, my revenue number is just not where I want it to be. And we've been doing all this work, and we've been trying so hard, and we've been making all these changes. And it's like, oh, well, let me go look at the rest of the KPIs and see what those look like, because those are making the right moves, which just means the revenue number is the last thing
That's a lag. That's a lag indicator, so to speak.
It's a lag.
Yeah, it's all the things that go into it. So you mentioned consistency a few times in the discussion. Do you feel that through these changes that you're doing a better job of getting the same people back to the same homes on the same day and the same time?
I think no, not since we had the loss of employees, but we will. So like that'll be my next thing. It's getting them stronger, right? Right now we're just focused on getting them stronger. Even like my family members, like getting them stronger and getting them certified. I shouldn't say certified, I guess certified. I'm going to make them go through the online portal as well, just so that we're all like, here's what you said we're teaching. Is this what you're actually doing? So they're next in line to go through the online portal for training. And then I think that once that happens and we're really strong in that area, now we can start looking at breaking up those zones, like who goes where, and trying to get it as route dense as we can, because, I'm a large service area. Like I have a really large service area.
And I'm going to say this before you get into the project, just to save you some time. Don't worry about so much of like math, like don't make the density your biggest priority. That will come in time, just as you schedule jobs. Get your home zones first, the colors that you want them to be. And then with the houses that you can move, start matching those up color wise as close as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, because the more that you try to make it perfect, the harder it's going to feel and the less like positive impact it's going to have on you and on the business. So like really just focus on matching colors to colors as much as you can.
Oh my God.
And then anything beyond that, it's just like, we know that this industry has so many moving parts, and that's okay. It's hard to have perfection, so we're just going to work for progress. So you can start working on that.
When I go look at my calendar, when I go look at the schedule, and I'm like, I have too many colors. There's too many colors. So yeah, it's like, oh my God.
You could minimize your colors. You could reduce your colors so much, right? There's no rhyme or reason.
It tells me something though. So like I've learned a lot. Like I know you probably don't like the way it's laid out, but for me, I'm using your, light pink, dark pink, right? So I'm light blue, dark blue. But when I go and I see like opposite colors, I'm like, and I think the biggest thing is once you pick your colors, no matter if you use your rainbow or not, that once you start learning the colors, you'll know your areas, right? So I know like if I have a maroon color and I have a green color, that's at least a 20 to 35 minute drive for me.
Exactly.
So like it's learning those numbers and being able to like see it when you're looking at the schedule. I know you love the master schedule. I don't love the master schedule, but
well, I'll get you to love it over time. You just watch. We'll do this again in a year, and I bet you're going to love it.
So yeah, so
I'll get you on there.
I do think consistency will come, Tom, though, just with the stronger the team gets. I think I'll be able to like have more of, before I didn't think it was that important until I had a conversation with Aja. Like I was just sending people, picking, like, oh, today so-and-so is going to go. And like I was doing a week in advance, but
your logistical brain took over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm like, okay, consistency is key. We're trying to get them there, the same people. So, and realizing how important that is for technicians, right? That was one of our big complaints, honestly.
Yeah.
When people were leaving and just like, I'm done. They were like, I don't want to go there. I don't, like, you're not sending me. I didn't know my schedule was going to change. I didn't know I wasn't going to go to Mrs. Jones's house. It was one of the key factors in some people quitting, besides just feeling like they were appreciated rather.
Yeah. I think that's probably the biggest thing that when I talk about consistency, it really is for the technicians more than anything. I mean, we've got our 3 stakeholders, our technicians, our customers, and the company, and everybody that gets benefit from the consistency, but it kind of is one of those trickling things where it comes from the technicians, right? The technicians give a really good quality. They make a really good connection with the customers. They show up at the same time for the customer, and therefore the customers are happier. And it just kind of like trickles down in there, but it's just like this nice little circle of everything in there. But really, like, once people really start to understand that how it benefits the technicians, that's that click of like, oh, I don't really want to promise my customers the same technician every time, because that just feels like work, right? That just feels like extra steps that I don't want to have to take right now, because I don't think it's just letting my customers run my business. That's the like the feeling behind it. But when you attach it to the technician happiness and their reason to stick with your business, then it makes so much more sense. I've seen that aha moment so many times now. It's like my favorite aha moment where people are like, oh, I
used Olu. I think Olu's the only one I heard say this. I think he's the one who told me. I do the backup. So like you have one technician and then you have a backup technician. So like
that's great.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
So,
but the more consistent you can get, your customer attrition rate goes down too. So I mean, it's a win. It's a triple win. That we talk about the 3 stakeholders. All 3 stakeholders win when you do that. You know what?
Well, we are almost there.
Yeah, and you know what? We probably should have mentioned we got a couple of live things going on. And
did you get those pulled up? Because I have them here too, if you needed it.
Okay. Well, yeah, we're here. I just didn't share my screen, but we're efforting to do that. TC, we really appreciate having you today, especially kind of pitch hitting here at the last. That's a baseball thing. Pitch hitting the last.
Good job, Tom.
you did great. Yeah, this was a good show. It really was, and we're going to be. I was going to be doing a workshop next week in Detroit, and it's going to be on artificial intelligence, and it's really going to be awesome. And we did it in Chicago in June, and I think we're still taking you can sign up for this. There's a live stream option as well, but if you're like in Michigan and can go live, going to do it at Lisa Shaw's place, and it's really going to be awesome. It's ai.maidcentral.academy. There we go. That'll work too. And we started talking about MCA Live. We're doing one of those in Charleston. It's going to be in September 25 through 27. MaidCentral.academy is where you need to go. This will sell out. Got a lot of people signed up already.
And then I do have one more I want to plug, because it is tomorrow and it fits very well with the conversation we just had, and that is our core KPI webinar is on customer attrition tomorrow. And that is at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can register here if you want to go to maidcentral.com/events. That will be the best place to find that registration link. Registration is required. It's a free webinar though. And the registration gives you access to the recording of it as well. Even if you can't show up on time, if something comes up, or if you miss part of it for some reason, you can do that there. And I think it fits very well with what we talked about today, because that customer attrition is your shining zone right now.
So do you let anyone, like even if they're not on MaidCentral, attend that?
Yes. The core KPI webinars are for everybody, whether you're a MaidCentral partner or not. We do have like a section on it where it's like, you know, if you are on MaidCentral, here are some activities that focus towards this KPI, but a lot of it is theory that is just good for the industry.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, we're going to be teaching you how to calculate lifetime value of a customer.
Oh, is that tomorrow? I
Yeah.
need that. Are you? When I need that number.
It's
We'll see
going to
you
be tomorrow at
Yeah.
2 p.m. Eastern. But you can sign up at maidcentral.com/events, and it should be the first one on the list since it is tomorrow, or the second one on the list. You're probably the first one on the list, but it should be early on the list. But that's it. That's our hour. We did it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's awesome. Again, can't appreciate enough you stepping in and helping us out last minute. But
No problem.
TC, it was fun, and we want to do this again. And Aja, as always, you're awesome. We will be back, I guess, in 2 weeks.
We will be back in 2 weeks, and that is Beth Eldridge with Eldridge Cleaning. We're going to see if we can get a surprise second guest to come on with her as well, but definitely Beth will be here in 2 weeks.
Awesome. So y'all take care. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.